Smile 2 is the sequel to the 2022 surprising box office hit for Paramount. This one once again brings Parker Finn back in the director's chair and the writing. He is not bringing on a new writer, he's not passing it off to a new filmmaker, it's still this guy who brought you the original idea based off of his short film. This time, though, it is taking place around a pop star named Sky Riley. She's having her own fair bit of problems, but she's trying to get back out there, trying to get the tour going until she witnesses a suicide, a gruesome, sadistic, evil, creepy smile suicide, which is of course the passing of the smile curse. So now she is seeing that creepy smile with everyone around her, which is signifying the countdown to her demise. Or is it? Gotta see the movie to find out. I didn't review this movie when it came out, like a lot of movies recently, my bad. But I really did love that first movie, and I wasn't really expecting to. I was like, maybe at most it's like a fun time, but I really love Smile. I just really dug that movie. I thought they did such a great job with these scares, jump scares that I feel like handled by anybody else it wouldn't work, but there's a certain level of craft that Parker Finn brought to it where I was like, man, this is just totally right up my alley. This is the kind of like modern studio horror film that I've been missing, and it's crazy to think that at any point this was going to be a straight-to-streaming movie, but because of positive test screenings, they were like, well, let's give it a shot. And then they had a big box office hit on their hands. It really worked out in their favor. So I was really excited at that time. It was also a good couple, not even just year, but just that couple time period of like September, October for 2022, because you had this movie, you had Terrifier 2, and then Barbarian. It's kind of a bummer that Zach Cregger's doesn't have another movie coming out this year, because you have Terrifier 3 and now Smile 2. They could have been the reunion for those guys. Someone should release Barbarian on physical media, by the way. I would love to own it. But I was also very excited when it became a box office hit, because I was like, man, this is a good win for not even just original horror movies, but just original films. And that is just, it just goes to show you that studios should invest more in these upcoming talents with big, bold ideas and just go ham with the marketing and just really bring it out there to people, get them hooked. So I was, of course, a little skeptical when they announced, we're doing a sequel. I was like, oh, well, okay. Like, it seemed like, once again, at the time, I was like, studios learning the wrong thing. Like, people maybe want to see more original ideas from these talents or other original ideas from new talents like Parker Finn. Instead, they're going like, well, people just want more specifically of this. It did help that they were like, Parker Finn will be back writing and directing. So I was like, that's where the skepticism comes from. Because it's like, okay, he once again is put in a position where he kind of has to prove himself. Like, he made a great movie, but now he has to not only make another good movie, but make a good sequel out of it too. So it's an interesting position he's in. So I was a little won over when I heard the premise that it is about a pop star, because there's a lot you can do with that potential. Think about what they go through on a daily basis with adoring fans and people always sucking up to them and smiling. So that's a great idea on paper. Now you just have to make the movie good. The trailers look good. So I was like, okay, let's hope it doesn't fall into like the sequel thing of just doing a similar version. It's a little different, but it's a lot of the same and not as interesting or not as good. So I went in very like nervous, excited, all the mixed emotions. And I fucking loved Smile 2. As someone who, as I said, I love the first Smile, this one's a little better. And that is wild to me, but I fucking adored this movie. It might be my favorite of the year. There's been a lot of great movies, especially horror movies, so it's kind of hard to decide, but yeah, it might be Smile 2. I really adored this. First off, I just gotta say, not only was it a great idea bringing Parker Finn back directing and writing, but they also have brought back the same editor, Elliot Greenberg, and the same cinematographer, Charlie Seraph. And those two are incredible at what they do, because so much of what I love about the first Smile comes down to those two things. Like, within the first couple minutes of watching the first movie, I was in awe of the cinematography, how they were handling just the imagery alone. And it's not even a thing of like, well, the scenery looks dazzling or something like that. Like, it takes place in like a very drab, like dull hospital. So the fact that, like the opening, so the fact that the opening looks so good of that movie already with the cinematography, like that is a really great testament to their talents, and it just continued to look great throughout. There's a lot of great camera movements. So going into this movie, and it opens with this prologue that is a one take kind of sequence, and it's glorious to look at. I was completely reminded of the first movie. I was like, this is what I want to see more of in general, that the first movie gave me, and what else they're able to do with not just, the camera movements, how long they hold on stuff, but then also like certain scene transitions they do. It's really inspired work. And then you bring in the editing, how long you're able to hold on a shot. and what is the appropriate time to bring in like a loud like scare noise or just have it be completely silent. These are all incredibly great decisions with the, combined powers of Parker Finn and your cinematographer and your editor. It's just the perfect marriage, especially in the case of like a horror movie like this, which is built entirely on you need to be jolted in your seat, you need to feel some suspense, and they all work together here to not only create the same magic that they did from the first movie, but make it even bigger and better. Like, they take a lot of ideas that were from the first movie to a point where some people might even try to say, like, it's almost the same movie beat for beat. I can't necessarily disagree with that, but I will say, though, that they take a lot of those things that happen in the first movie and they add a new twist to it, or they make it better, and it's just so inspired and just so... It was a refreshing experience. I was excited the entire time because I never quite knew what they were going to do with the scare. I was never quite sure, are they going to do, like, a jump at me, or are they going to, like, keep building this? Is it going to be a fake out? I genuinely don't know. I think some people might also like have a bit of hang up as far as like, oh, jump scares, I don't like jump scares. And it's never been a thing of like, people complain about jump scares because of what they are. There's been a lot of times where jump scares are bad. They, show imagery that isn't that scary, but you recognize the sound is supposed to make you a little bit more scared. It's supposed to like alarm you because it's a loud noise when all the audio goes out. But this movie, I think, is a good example of like what good jump scares can be, because they're actually showing it with imagery that is frightening. Instead of using it to end a scene, most of the time they're introducing sounds to keep building the tension, or the sound comes in at the exact right moment it needs to. They're twisting on things that happen in the first movie. Doesn't even end with just how they set up their scare sequences. It also goes into the narrative as far as there are certain avenues that they could have taken with the first movie, or even ones that they maybe hinted at that they didn't fully go down, that they do try to do more of here, which made me really excited. Like, okay, yeah, we are genuinely going in new directions here. And also, it's more than just, the changing up things of like, now it's with a pop star. It doesn't just end with like, oh, well, it's cool to just have like different scenery or something like that. It helps also that you're thrown into this experience with a lead character like Sky Riley, played by Naomi Scott, who is incredible. The character is so well written. There's so much there, more so than even when you like start off the movie, like, okay, I think I get what's going on, and then they keep revealing stuff, they keep showing you more sides of her, and you're like, man, this really is just like one of the most well-rounded like characters that we have gotten, and there have been a lot of great characters in this year, and even with, horror films in past, so I'm not trying to say like, man, it's been so long, but there's just something about this character in particular, it's, I think, once again, another great marriage between like the writing, the sequences themselves are like, you would hate being in those situations too, so you relate and you empathize, but also Naomi Scott is just a force of fucking nature in this film. This is one of those performances where like come Oscar time, awards season, whatever, she will be completely left out because of the kind of movie she's in, but her work here is so deserving of it. And I've been a fan of Naomi Scott since Lemonade Mouth. You know what I mean? Like, she's been good in like everything I've seen from her since, whether it is the Charlie's Angels movie or Aladdin or even the Power Rangers movie, she's always good in what she does. This is the best that she has ever been, though. She is not only just wickedly talented with like her singing, because they do incorporate some songs in the soundtrack of this. By the way, even though it's not a musical, but they do play some of the songs, they're actually like good songs. Sometimes you'll have a pop star in a movie and they do bad songs and people try to act like, oh my god, this is the greatest thing in the world. Like, these are songs that I could see myself listening to again, and I kind of want to, they've kind of itched their way into my brain. Like, Blood on White Satin is actually like a good listen. But also just acting wise, she goes through a full range of emotions. And Sosie Bacon, I shouldn't have been surprised, because Sosie Bacon I really loved in that first movie. So Parker Finn working with another lead, actor, shouldn't have surprised me too much that, it's, still amazing. But man, she's just the kind of actress where you watch her and you're like, oh shit, yeah, this is what acting's all about, isn't it? Yeah. She is so good, and you fully buy into this character. There's never a moment where I'm like, this is phony, they don't know what they're doing. Like, it feels like they really did try to take you into the experience of like a pop star who's having their own mental problems thrown into a horror movie, like you're completely in the mindset of it. And when she's frustrated or confused by what's happening, because the smile curse, the way that works is sometimes you don't know what's real or what's not. You're also like thrown through a loop too. You're like, fuck, I don't know. Like you're sharing a lot of the same emotions, and she's like the perfect vessel, to ride with. gosh, wow, she's amazing in this film, truly. And there's also, it's one of those movies too where like all of the supporting characters, the supporting players, none of them are bad either. They all have solid, you know, roles in this, and their acting is great. No one is off, or, you know, the writing isn't as good for one person as opposed to everyone else. Everyone feels authentic and they fit a purpose into the story. You know, they round out a great supporting cast. Really, I have like no negatives with this film. I love so much about this. I love a lot of like some of the visual effects that they put in, because, you know, similar to the first movie, there's, you know, at least a couple instances of it, but man, visually it looks so good. Like some of the practical stuff that they do, like this movie is gorier than the first movie, you know, for good reason. A lot of this stuff they do is so immersive and just disturbing, but it's part of the narrative now. It's part of what makes this so effective and so chilling. Coupled with the cinematography and editing, like I mentioned before, it's also very funny in instances too. I think the first movie is a little bit like that as well, but this one just, there's really great jokes, and it's never a point where I'm like, oh, tonally, oh, what whiplash, you know, like it's all just this perfect blend of tone, of style. God, like it may not be everyone's favorite movie of the year, or maybe even favorite horror movie to come out this year, but man, I fucking adore this movie. This is kind of like everything that I'm looking for in just a movie, you know? Like, it spoke to me on so many levels, narratively, stylistically, acting-wise. Everything about this was firing on all cylinders for me, and I loved it. So I'm gonna give Smile 2 an A+. I adore this film. It might be my favorite of the entire year. I also love the substance and long legs, so it's, you know, and also recency bias, so maybe give it a couple days to really worm through that. But man, I haven't walked out of like a theater like excited in the way I was watching Smile 2. And I've walked out of, you know, plenty of movies where I'm like excited, refreshed. So once again, the recency bias thing, but still, like, I just love that feeling walking out of a movie, and I'm like, I'm inspired, you know, I want to, like, this is what makes me want to write, this is what makes me want to make my own films. I want to share this movie with people. I love that feeling. It's the latest, and, you know, a lot of great ones to have come out in just the past couple months alone. But man, just something about this experience, like I said, just sometimes a movie just speaks directly to you. Like, you know, everyone has their own biases, you know, expectations as far as like what they want from a movie, what they want certain movies to do. You shouldn't let that impact what movie you actually get, but, you know, still, you have them anyways. And this movie just, like, it gave me everything that I could have wanted, and stuff that I didn't know I needed out of a Smile sequel, out of a horror movie. So what can I say? I loved it. Please check it out. You probably will, but let's make this a box office hit like the first movie was. If they do Smile 3, I'm less skeptical now after seeing this. It's almost that thing of like, how could they potentially top this one? It's so epic and good, but I mean, at this point, I'm willing to see what they do. I'm still hoping for another original from Parker Finn, but the Smile stuff is good, so I'll take more if you got it, if he's involved. And the cinematographer, editor, if it's the same team, is what I'm saying. You know, it takes everybody. What did you think of Smile 2, though? Leave your thoughts down in the comments below, and as always, thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe. I'm Jackson Fulcher. See you guys next time.